have theater questions for you. I hear you may have an in to the Beauty and the Beast production.
I do have an in.
I really want to see that. When are they doing the actual?
First 2 weekends of August.
Okay.
5 o'clock?
Did you see my other theater?
We're ready to go.
That's what made me think of it.
And we actually got the park board here, so welcome. Welcome to a new gigs, yes. Thought we lost you all. Thought we maybe had to trace you and track you down. So let's call this to order. And how about roll call?
Jemison,
Yes, here.
Knutson. Here. Herniman,
Present.
Case, absent. Miller,
Present.
Frisch,
Here.
McDaniel.
Here.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. So we have item 3 of our agenda, selection of chair and vice chair. We did not get that completed last time, is that correct? Or is that still?
We did.
I think you're looking at the May
You look at the minutes.
Oh.
minutes.
It was,
It's on there.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
thanks.
that's
Okay.
already selected, so
Yep.
that is not an action item for us. So action 4 on the agenda is the approval of May 9th, 2023 minutes. We did not have a meeting in June due to lots of transfer and other things, so do we have any comments about it? We have a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Any second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Did you get that? Any comments, any corrections? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. This is the opportunity in item 5 for public appearances. We do welcome any others to come and speak to the park board. And we do have some limitations on time for 3 minutes individuals and 15 overall. Is there anybody wanting to speak with the park board this evening? Candy would like to. Candy would not like to. Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6. Item 6 is reports from the village staff. 6A is the director of Public Works.
I'm happy to take specific questions, but otherwise I yield my time to the Director of Community Development.
Yeah, Jeff was unable to join us tonight, so I think the only updates he was hoping to share would just be J.C. Park concession stand, that construction's ongoing. I don't have a specific end date, but I believe it'd be fall about that would be wrapped up. I think the playing fields are coming really nicely, all the outfields and stuff too, so hopeful that we'll have a date, be late fall, that we may have some playable time before the snow is on the ground over there, and maybe the concession stand actually gets to get used a little bit this year. Otherwise, definitely will be full steam ahead for next year. We did dedicate the VFW sponsored flag memorial area on the 4th of July. I don't know if any of you were able to be there, but really nice ceremony. The municipal band was there to do all the different branches of military, their songs. So those are up and flying. And I think otherwise, that's kind of the big park projects going on right now. Everything else is roads and utilities.
So one of which is, so tree planting took place over, so how is that coming along? Is that working out pretty well? Is trees taking out?
I think so, yeah. I'm sure they're happy for the rain today. But yeah, I haven't heard any update that any of them at this point are needing to be replaced or anything. So I think we have bags on a lot of those for watering. So seeing our crews go around and refill those pretty often. But yeah, hopefully they'll take well this year and keep on going. I
It's a
think
tough
we've got-
year, pretty dry for,
Yeah, hard year to be a tree.
but easy to be mowing lawn.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's been reduced. Any other questions and comments for Public Works report? Hearing none, move to 6B, Director of Community Development reports, update on comprehensive plan and park plan processes.
So our update is that I'll have an update for you in August. We have the draft though in hand. We actually got that about a month ago. So just on Friday, Leanne and Jeff and I spent some time with our consultants from Vanderwall to go through the draft of both the comp plan and the park plan. A lot of just questions they had for us and some typos and editing and things like that. It's gonna look a lot different though than the last plan. It's kind of been pieced together the last few times, and so both for the park plan and the comp plan, they kind of did a full rewrite and refresh and organize things a little bit differently, a couple new sections. So there's updated maps and things, so August, or we will definitely meet in August. That's gonna be Wednesday, the 10th. Because we'll have Sounds of Summer conflict again in August, but we will go through, probably have someone from Vanderwall here to do kind of a overview of these are the major changes, and then they'll also have the draft of the park plan in your packet, so you guys can kind of look through that and have questions, but we'll have a couple of rounds of the draft review and then come back for edits, throughout kind of the late summer and early fall. And then I think we're aiming for around November, if all goes well, to have kind of a final public workshop and before the final adoption of both plans. So more to come on that, but it looks really good, and excited to share that with you. Some of the recommendations from that park plan are actually in the CIP that we'll go through later for our budgeting. So I'll share some of those updates when we get to that item.
Is there any involvement from the park board members for any of that development or review for any of that plan?
Opportunity to do that?
Or just being participant in developing it?
Yeah, I mean, so Vanderwall is working on, we did all the surveys and stuff earlier this spring. We did some focus groups. So they've taken all that feedback plus a lot of updated data. They've asked us about, what has been built since the last park plan, what is anticipated to come forward with, new neighborhoods and things like that. So the draft of the park plan, that's kind of one of your key roles as the park board, is you will now at the next meeting and the next couple get to see the drafts. They'll highlight again the changes that were made, but then that's your opportunity to say, we think you really missed this, or, this is what we heard. And we feel like this, is misstated, or let's expand more on some sections. So yeah, that'll be the work that we kind of dig into probably August through October. But yeah,
Okay.
that'll happen here at Park Board, so that's kind of your opportunity to give your say. But yeah, we'll make sure it's in the packet so you have some time to read it ahead of the meeting.
Any questions, comments in regards to that? Hearing none, thank you. Moving on to 6C, Recreation Programming Coordination Report on the J.C. Park renaming survey and process.
Yes, so we've got our short list, and we think it's time to open it up to public input. So we think it's just best to keep it simple. We just have a Google form that we are going to start distributing pending approval tomorrow. We're going to collect responses until the 1st, and then hopefully we'll be able to have some data to share at the August 9th meeting.
Any question, comments from the park board? Any suggestions, other names? Kind of what we came about last time, I believe, so.
And then I think there's just, some formatting stuff, but you're planning on getting this out through social media.
Correct, through our e-notify lists, and then, probably postings with a QR code at the library, senior center.
Yeah.
From some of the other previous type of postings like this, what kind of response have you gotten? Do you recall how that's been?
And for our park survey, we got 500 or 600 responses but that was kind of village-wide. I don't think a lot of people are going to be super invested in this decision, but there's
Right.
definitely core groups of people that have some opinions about it. So I could see, I mean, if we get 200 responses, I'll be
Yeah.
happy with that. So.
And the settings are so that people can't fill it out multiple times.
Okay.
So that will make our numbers lower, but yet quality numbers, because it won't be,
Don't, not vote more often.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's some other municipalities do that. Any other questions and comments regards to the renaming? All right, thank you very much. Moving on to 7, unfinished business, and any other discussion items for action. Is there any particular items, anything from the park board? Or from the staff? Pretty quiet. All right.
Oh, Mark, I have one question. Probably skipped it. When you're talking about J.C. Park, the pickleball courts are open, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's been a couple of weeks or a couple of months since we've met.
Yeah,
so-
thanks. It's been, feels like a lifetime. But yeah, pickleball courts opened early June.
Correct.
and those have been getting a lot of use. Yeah, I think
Yep.
it's been going well. I don't know, Leanne's been pretty involved with the
Yeah.
FOOP organization, Friends of Oregon
Yep.
Pickleball, is now a nonprofit.
The windscreens are up, and I've heard that they're fantastic, because there was concern about airflow, whether or not on a hot day air could still get through, and I guess it's working really well, so far so good.
Well, that's good. Then I guess since you're up at the mic,
Sure.
how have the reservations for parks been going? I mean, how has that process been this year?
It's been going well. Yes, very well. Yeah, so far so good. I think the one thing we need to kind of tweak is, not necessarily reservation related, but, with J.C. Park being under construction, we've put a lot of strain on our really small neighborhood parks that are only designed to be used one, maybe 2 nights a week. But they're being used with soccer and whatnot, at least 5 nights a week. From some neighbors have called saying that they start at 7 a.m. and are going until 8 o'clock at night, 5 days a week. So I think we're gonna have to reconfigure some scheduling so that we're not putting such a strain on the neighbors.
Yeah, we heard from one of the neighbors in May
Mm-hmm.
as well, so.
So when will it be ready to go, do they think?
So we're hoping, so with their summer season, they don't use as many or use as much space as they do in the spring and fall season. So we're hoping to meet in a couple weeks so that we can get this under control before the fall season starts.
But you think J.C. Park will be ready to go then, by then, or not?
Probably not by the time their season
Probably
starts.
not, but there are some other spaces that are available for use that for some reason or another, they just would prefer not to use, and so I think we need to discuss using those.
Have you had a lot of members of the community actually reserve stuff outside of the sports groups?
A lot of shelter reservations, a lot of pickleball court reservations.
Okay.
Everything from groups of friends to those wanting to host a clinic. So those have been immensely popular. And then the youth center has reserved, Kaiser Park, the Diamonds there a few times for, just fun kickball activities. And then OSD, they've reserved, Highlands and Netherwood Field for a couple of, they've got a water day coming up. So it's been pretty varied, but yeah, mostly sports.
Have there been any conflicts of people wanting to use the park and with the reservations?
Not that the athletic areas, no. The shelters, everybody wants the same days.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's to be expected, and we have enough available at this point where it's worked out so far.
Okay.
You're also asking about if somebody reserved, but somebody's there?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm
typically?
getting at too. I mean,
Yeah.
how conflict resolution, I mean, what's the steps of dealing with that? If I have a reservation,
Sure.
Mark's there,
Right.
do I walk up and show my permit, or do I quietly
Exactly.
sit in the
So
side?
everybody does receive a confirmation via email. So I would imagine it's on their phone. If not, they also get my number to reach me, like the weekend before their reservation. So worst case scenario, they can call me and I can be there in 2 minutes tops. And
Are you posting things at these shelters that they're reserved?
yes,
Okay.
we actually just got really nice new glass cases installed at Kaiser, Highlands and Netherwood, and J.C. Park will be getting theirs probably close to fall. So yeah, I've been putting some makeshift signage up, but we now have official glass cases as well.
So Kaiser and Highlands and Netherwood, those are the heavy use.
Those are the
ones.
heavy use,
Okay.
and also the ones that, if there were to be a conflict, that's where it
Sure.
would be.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
you're welcome.
The other things we had talked about was approving for those planters and such for J.C. Park, and those seating.
Yeah,
which are
the
windmills.
wind turbine
Wind tur-
slices.
yeah, wind
Yeah,
Yes.
the,
Yeah.
they go to the village board and they did accept, I think
Mm-hmm.
the proposal to take the donation and them installed. So I haven't heard any update from Jeff as to when we're expecting those, but
But it's
I think,
moving forward.
yep,
Okay.
yeah, the board gave the thumbs up on that one.
Any other questions, comments about unfinished business? Hearing none. Move on to 8, new business items. 8A, 2024 to 33 draft 10-year capital improvement plan, the SIP plan.
Let me make sure this is here. So, last time, we met back in May, we gave a little bit of an overview on just, the budget schedule and process and some of the priorities for the park board. We've since submitted our draft CIP to the village board at our meeting this past Monday. And just kind of wanted to walk through some of those park projects. And again, as I mentioned, some of these have changed or been added onto since, we kind of got that draft of the park plan back, trying to reorder some things and take them into account. So a couple of, I guess just starting with street projects, one update to point out, and Lauren knows a little bit more about the ins and outs of what this will look like, but we have swapped our reconstruction of Jefferson Street, so Highway CC, that the joint county project, similar to what we're doing right now on Janesville Street. We have moved that up in the schedule a little bit because we've got 3 properties that are remaining in the town of Oregon over here that are all actually now for sale, and some activity in terms of annexation and possible redevelopment. And so we feel like that once those are annexed, again, that's when we can do the reconstruction project. That's a little bit closer than some of these other areas like Wolf Street over near Foxborough. We think that's a little bit further to go in terms of getting those properties all brought into the village. So we could do that project, but regardless, when our plan right now for Jefferson Street reconstruction would be hopefully design in 2025 and then reconstruction in 2026. But the plan right now is for 2 10-foot multi-use paths on both sides, so a path on both sides of the road, north and south side. So that would provide connections from all the way from Highlands of Netherwood neighborhood to Color Alpine Meadows Park, and then Bergamot through down to probably Ash Street. So really improving the pedestrian and bike connections on this end of town. So again, those are kind of dependent on the annexations over here, these 3 properties, but hopefully that keeps moving forward. That's in the joint county, village county projects line here, sorry. The learner lateral, Lauren, I don't know if you know kind of all that entails, but that's a little bit further out, but that's more of a stormwater management. That's kind of the dredging and realignment of the draining of some backup near Lerner Park.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's essentially, it is a project that would have, if it were in place, alleviated the issues that we saw across Netherwood several years ago during, I believe it was 2018. It predated me here, but I remember it clearly because I drove that route every day. There was a stretch of time where the field on the north side essentially overtopped. Right now it's very marshy, it's very low, and it did overtop. And essentially Netherwood was underwater for quite a while. The Lerner Lateral is really kind of a project that would allow water to drain from that north side under and through some of the Lerner Park area, probably in more of that wetlandy area. This is, as you might imagine, been a fairly difficult project permitting wise, and which is the job of the DNR. It should be scrutinized, but for that reason, it's kind of, I would say, tied up in that permitting legal process right now. So it's still in here. That's kind of the idea behind it, but I wouldn't say that there is a very definitive path to getting to that project quite yet.
Yeah, so just to explain to you, these are for each year, if you didn't see that, so that's kind of put out right now in 26. We'll see if that gets shifted any further. We do have paving of the Rotary Trail, the gravel areas. Jeff feels pretty confident that the trail, we're not gonna really relocate the trail in a large way anytime soon, especially since we've had a couple of dry years. So paving of some of those gravel sections, I forgot what the distance was, maybe 500 feet or so of gravel that's out there right now, in like 2 or 3 different sections. So that would be goal is to hopefully have that repaved next year, and then there's just some ongoing, funding, about $225,000 every 3 years for, ongoing trail maintenance and replacement. That's mostly Keller Alpine Meadows, that path, and then the Rotary Trail as well. Bunch of equipment that I don't know what that is. Our parks plan, will be updated every 5 years, so this is set for, I think, 2028, and that'll go for the future 5 years. Phase 2 of JC Park West, so that would be, or whatever the park is named at that point, possible addition of that 4th ball field to close out the diamond. There's a couple other playing fields, a playground structure, a storage building for Public Works that is all wrapped up into Phase 2. So right now, we have that for 2025. A lot of that design's already been done.
That number went up significantly over the year.
Yeah, everything. Nothing ever gets cheaper when you kick the can down the road, unfortunately. So, but yeah, there's some other costs, like with the maintenance building for Public Works. It's probably like a glorified pole barn or small shed, but that cost, I think, is now wrapped into this, and wanting to make sure we do, pour in place accessible surfacing for a new playground. And so again, that's just a placeholder number. I think once we get closer, we'd update the design, make sure that's all the features we still want to include, and then get a better number for the construction as that gets closer. We did add the Oak Street tennis and pickleball court reconstruction for 2025. This actually needs to be in our plan to make us eligible for applying for a lot of DNR grants. So part of the reason we didn't get this in the past is because it wasn't called out in the plan. So that's definitely called out now, and that's set to hopefully we'll be able to apply for funding next year and then do that work in 2025. Another area we've talked about this a lot about a year ago was the master plan for all of the kind of West Side parks. So West Side Park around the new library, Keller Alpine Meadows, Dega, DiMaggio, Lerner. So I think now that the park plan will be adopted, hopefully by December, we'll have a general sense of, we want to see this as, passive and active, or fully passive, or whatever that may be, and then kind of would dive into the details of, okay, what does that actually mean in terms of changes to the trails or other amenities? Do we want to have restrooms? Are there going to be playing fields? I think all of that will kind of get determined both in the park plan, and then also digging into probably working with a landscape architect to do the actual planning of what specifically will go in the park, and then in the future be able to, we've got $100,000 mostly for design held in 2025, and then $2 million in 2026 for whatever that major improvement project may be. If it's something that's obviously a smaller project, if we just decide we want to keep it pretty rustic, we want to maybe have a restroom building and a small shelter, that number could go down or up depending on the direction that the park board and the village board decide to go with it. We have Kaiser Fireman's Park upgrades to the dugouts, updating the skate park, the restrooms on Brook Street, getting designed in 26, construction in 27. These are all kind of placeholder numbers, but just trying to plan projects so they're not all happening at the same time. There's an ongoing $20,000 a year for ongoing maintenance, replacement of wood chips, and repair of playground equipment and volleyball nets and things like that. Another thing that was called out in the draft park plan is for Bethel Green Acre over on, that's on South Main, right? New restroom and shelter upgrade for that park. And no, sorry, it's on Burr Oak. Yep. Upgrade up to that park. Thompson Park playground upgrade. Those are looking a little old, so that's kicked pretty far down the road. I think that's for 2028, 2029. Resurfacing of basketball courts at Mary Hill, Gassner, and Bethel. We think we could hopefully get that done next year. And then Gary Dish Park, so our new park in Autumn Ridge. We would like to do some playground equipment over there, so we have design for that in 24 and then construction in 25. hopefully on the early side so we can have the park used as much as possible that year. But this is, as you can see, very standard to do, break up the design cost 1 year and then the construction the next year. So just following that pattern, I think.
There's a basketball court at Gassner as well. Any idea what the condition of that court is?
I think that one's listed, yeah, here as well. I think that would be included with the resurfacing. And Lisa, I just realized we actually have the parks update on here twice with 2 different numbers, so just want to make sure we're not counting that twice because we only need to pay for it once. So.
Just let me know what number you want to use.
Yep. You know, other kind of planning things that, you know, recommending that we do an updated downtown master plan in next year. Now that we have some of our key municipal public buildings relocated, we've got, obviously, Old Village Hall is sitting vacant right now. Before we embark further on kind of the senior center, community center planning of that block, kind of looking at all of downtown and taking some of the recommendations from the comp plan. We heard a lot about, you know, we want to densify downtown, we want to expand the footprint of downtown, we want more activity, more people down there, more people living downtown. So I think it would be kind of good timing before we proceed further to get some of those areas looked at a little more closely. Triangle Park, what's the future of that? Does that need to grow? Do we need to have restrooms now that Village Hall is not open down there? So other departments, you know, I can maybe speak to some of these if there's questions, but just on the park plans, any, I guess, feedback from you guys on timing or anything that seems to be missing?
I was just gonna ask about the park board discretionary fund, you know, that we had set aside, like if something small came up, we could say, go ahead and do it. Is that listed somewhere on here, or did I miss it, or is that?
I think that's an
wrapped up into
operating
something
budget.
else? Okay,
It's in the park budget.
Yeah.
The $20,000 a year that's allocated towards some of the smaller projects, whether it be doing, like she said, putting up wood chips or
Yeah.
repairing some of the equipment, some of the playground equipment that's there.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure it didn't get overlooked.
No,
was all,
it's
so
in there.
It's somewhere, so that's, I'm good.
Yeah. It's right there in the very middle. It goes right across. the
Good, so that's what that means.
Yep, that's
Okay.
what that's for.
All right, perfect.
The annual maintenance.
Any other questions? It's great to have a long-term plan, which is awesome, to be able to understand it, and certainly appreciate a little bit for the park board to have some input on and have some funds available so that we can respond a little bit in regards to that. So appreciate you sharing that with all. And all the additional information. There's quite a few of those, definitely. No other questions? So that's 8A. 8B, any discussion on the proposed bike pump track near headquarters? So that was in the packet as well. I'd comment that the clearing of that pond made some surprising difference. Never realized that there was a retention pond in there. And I remember that when when it was brought forward with HQ and was going to clear that up. So that's awesome, and I think it's really helpful overall.
So I can speak a little to
Yes,
this
if you would,
and hopefully
please.
get a little direction from you all. So raise your hand if you've ever heard of a pump track. Okay, that's about what I expected. I've been learning a lot about pump tracks. Just to back up a little bit, so if you're not aware, next to headquarters, the Bodie Howe, which stands for a bunch of dudes I hang out with. I'm not kidding. Is going up. I think Jamie Bush is set to open hopefully later this summer, early fall. I think he's waiting on a few pieces of equipment to arrive. But that project did receive some TIF funding from the board a few years ago for the construction, and then also part of that agreement was Jamie would clean up the stormwater pond area, which is owned by him currently, get the pond dredged out, cleaned up, a lot of that clearing happening, and then that will eventually get turned over to the village, like a lot of our other stormwater ponds. So Jamie is really involved in, active sports, and has recently, I think, found that a lot of communities are making use of these pump tracks, which is a track where you actually don't really have to pedal. It's kind of like a skate park meets bike trail. But the idea is that pumping motion, so just kind of moving up and down on your bike, you can go over, different ramps and, choose your own adventure in terms of how challenging you want to make it. If you want to kind of take all of the jumps or go kind of more on an easier path. So he suggested, actually quite a while ago, probably over a year ago, that the area around what's currently his pond be developed as a pump track, and that he would do some of the work and then turn it over to the village, and could be a village park. And I guess these are really popular, especially with kids, and mountain biking is really growing in popularity. So and I've heard too, our skate park's pretty lame, so this is kind of a next step up in terms of challenge and more space to do that on. And then one thing that Jamie had brought up too is we do have a stormwater pond area just to the east here. So here's Park Street, here's Culver's. This is actually really the stormwater basin, and there's a pretty high wall here. So this area isn't really serving a stormwater purpose. It's sort of unused land, but it's not really buildable. But there's a potential of, having a few little trail loops and using some of this property for a pump track. I just included some information here about what a pump track is. This is a picture of all the Leopold Park up on the north side of Fitchburg, kind of right on the Fitchburg-Madison border, near like Post Road in Fitchburg. This was just installed a few years ago, and they had a lot of funding from both Trek and Saris, which have foundations that are obviously trying to get people out on bikes and keep, people active. Trek actually did a lot of the design for free, and then the Saris Foundation, I think, donated some money for construction, but there was it's kind of a matching grant type situation. The city of Madison, I think maybe Fitchburg too, contributed some to the construction of this park. So I guess it's been getting a lot of use. It's right off the Cannonball Path. There's also going to be it's called Shred to School path, where you can be able to bike to school and go off some sweet jumps while you're on your way. And again, lots of funding and interest from nonprofits around getting kids outside and on bikes. So Jamie approached us again more recently and connected us with a gentleman named Ty Beck, who's the president of the Madison Parks Foundation. He also lives in the village. He works for Oak Bank, but they let us know about kind of this recent project in Fitchburg and some of the funding opportunities, and said, we're kind of rethinking how this pond area could be used, and this is something the village would be interested in supporting, both in concept and also financially, to some extent. These foundations, would like to see some buy-in from the community as well. We've got some skin in the game, and obviously if this is a park, long-term it would be maintained by the village. I guess maintenance, especially for, depending on surfacing, but if there's asphalt, there's really not a lot of maintenance involved. Some, clearing and mowing and things like that, but otherwise the path doesn't really get, repaved on a fairly regular basis. So that's kind of one, we have no real estimate because this hasn't been designed yet. What is this gonna cost? I think Ty gave me a range of, could be anywhere from $250,000 to $400,000 for a pump track that would kind of fit in this area in blue. This is not something that's been, of course, specifically called out in our park plan or our comp plan. We just kind of went through our CIP. We certainly have a lot of things on our plate. But I think if it's something that the park board, the village board feel is a need in our community and would, attract people and get used by, community members. It would be open to the public, kind of same as any of our other parks, use at your own risk. Obviously, there's an interest in having the Bodie and the HQ kind of be one of the trailheads, but if we would expand to this area, there'd probably be another trailhead location so you could access it from multiple locations. But it would just kind of be, again, use at your own risk and operate the same hours as all of our other parks, just to come in and use. So I guess just kind of want some feedback from you guys. Is this something you're interested in hearing more about? We didn't get all the information in time to actually have like a draft plan, or, it's kind of this chicken and egg thing right now because they don't want to put a lot of money into design if they don't feel like this is something the village is open to, and is willing to put, again, some money forward. But I think we also need something to respond to really understand what this actually look like, what would the features be, what is the cost, because right now it's kind of unclear what they're really asking for, but I guess just want to get some feedback, and if you're interested in learning more, then I can touch back with Jamie and Ty and see if they can come to our next meeting. I think we'll also probably give a little bit of an update to the village board too, to see if there's some interest in pursuing this further, but would love to
Questions,
hear from you
comments?
guys.
I just a couple, one, I would love to learn more about it, just so we know what we're gonna talk about, what the investment would be for the village, also, long-term, what it would take. If it becomes a village park, I mean, it's great that it's there, but then just having to maintain it.
Yeah.
What does that look like? And then two, with the trailhead at the brewing, the Body How, I think that'd be fine, but also having a different trailhead somewhere else for the public, so you're not, I guess I don't feel too strongly about letting my kids walk past a brewery, but some people might not, like to access a public park, through the parking lot of, something else.
Well,
Lisa?
you can check up, I'm sorry.
Lisa, want to comment?
Yeah, the other thing too with the Bodie Howe, there is gonna be a bike shop
Okay.
within the Bodie Howe too. So that's it all kinda
It's just
ties
weird,
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a strange combination of businesses in there, but part of it is gonna be a bike shop.
I think tacos, coffee,
Yeah.
beer, and
Right.
bikes. So.
I'm excited.
Judy, did you
I
have a
would
comment?
like more.
All your favorite things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for that and the pump track. Right now, there's about, on the Fleming property that's going to be built on, there's about 30 kids across the street from my house that I watch, and it's fun to watch. And they have made this big hill, and it's unbelievable what they do. So maybe Jamie wants to go over and talk with them, I don't know who they are, or,
To help with design.
Yeah, they can be the muscle.
But I mean, because that's gonna be gone, and I mean, they're just unbelievable how good they are. It'll be interesting.
Sorry, I haven't introduced myself. My name is Lynn McDaniel. I'm the new village board representative, and I'm very
Thank you
excited
for
to be on the
joining
Parks
us, and
Board.
welcome.
As a mother of 3 young kids, parks are a big part of my life right now. Elise, I'm wondering if when we get more information from Jamie or whoever is connected,
Yep.
if we can also take a look at the accessibility specifically on Wolf Street. We don't have any other crosswalks to, like, near the HQ. I only know this because I am on Wolf Street every day to get to my home. And I'm a little nervous about specifically kids crossing if they're coming from like the middle school. And I know that Wolf Street is all tied up in county and village and all of those things, but I'm just wondering if we can also look at like the greater, how will people access this? Because if it's a village park, I do expect that there will be an increased amount of movement. And that area has definitely, especially with Culver's, like there's just a lot of traffic going on. And so I think as far as my personal opinion, I'd really like to see if there's some ways that we can help create more safety around the area just to get people there in a safe way. In addition, things like lighting, that's a pretty dark area. HQ is well lit during volleyball night, but other than that, just how would we be able to see people if they're near the road or coming out of the park, things like that. Safety aspects, I'm sure you're on it, but just as a point of.
Yeah, well, again, we haven't really seen any designs. I think everything's up for discussion, and I think it's more, the initial step is something we're interested in, and then, yeah, going from there. But yeah, all good points. I also don't know about like any kind of fencing, if this is sort of contained, or, you know, how does it, what's the delineation between like people walking on the sidewalk and like somebody coming around? If you don't make a turn, are you going into Wolf Street? I, you know, have yet to see how that would kind of all play out. But yeah, good points. Thanks.
So what's the history on the skate park? Was that skate park, was it privately funded and then put on the park?
From what I've heard and what I remember, Jim Lease was the person that headed up the skateboard park.
Okay.
I don't know any more than I know he was really involved with it. I don't know how it was funded, because that was way before my time here too, so.
I'm trying to remember, because I remember when it was developed a long time ago. And because it stands on village property, correct, not school property?
Yep.
And so then the village just took over and maintained if they necessary, but I don't think there's been a real burden by the village overall.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably part of the reason that it hasn't been used, is because it's kind of been neglected. I mean, there's not really been a refresh of equipment. It's kind of hard to tell too, is it not being used because there's like skating is less popular, or biking or whatever it might be, or is it because of the equipment is just not, are there just less people doing it, or is it because they're not coming because it's totally lame? So that's a direct quote from some of the high schoolers we taught.
We went to the high school to get that valuable information.
Well, at one point, I know there was, earlier in the time frame, there was concerns about just inappropriate activity taking place, drugs and other things, but, so I think
Yeah.
there's, I don't think there's as much of that because it's not being used. That makes a difference, but just was curious on how that cycled in and how that might play into to this
Yeah,
idea.
no, that's a good point. I don't know, I mean, I've looked at some different examples of, like, looks like some of these parks have some, you know, trees and things are more kind of screened and more within a wooded area versus, like the other park is kind of more just an open field. So from just a visibility standpoint, if somebody gets hurt or something, you know, nobody else is out there, are they gonna be able to be seen? We do have a lot more activity around here now, so, I guess that's something else to kind of understand, but, I guess personally where I'm at is I think this is a really cool concept. I'd like to learn more, but knowing that we have a lot of other things in our CP, I'm not sure we're gonna be able to, or if the board, you know, and you guys are gonna want to bump other projects or try to accommodate this with everything else we have going on, or if this is something we need to, again, kind of get in the queue, get designed, and, you know, hopefully this funding is there still in the future and interest in this park, but, you know, when you talk to Jamie, you get super excited too. Let's build it tomorrow. So yeah.
Yes,
I
Ed?
have just one more question. Obviously, there'd be more risk or chance for injury on this. So I'm guessing this would be covered under the recreational immunity.
Yeah, we've talked about this a few times at our planning staff meetings, and Matt and Derek, our village attorneys, have been there, and they said, yeah, this could be just with the skate park and everything too. Yeah, it's under the umbrella of recreational immunity. So as long as things are posted that, you know, use at your own risk, and, you know, these are the hours and these are the expectations, you know, or you need to wear a helmet, other things like that. But, yeah, ultimately it's at people's discretion, what they choose to use, how they choose to use it, when they use it. But yeah, I think from a liability standpoint, it's no different than any of our other parks.
Okay, I lied, I do have one more question. as a follow-up. I'm really happy that, you know, the village doesn't have a pay-to-play, you know, program, you know, as far as you wanna use the skate park, you need a permit. I mean, you wanna use the dog park, you're supposed to have a permit, but it's not enforced. You know, so I'd love, love to see this, you know, continue to be free, you know, as well too. I mean, I know a lot of places are going to, well, how can we recoup some of our costs? I mean, the cost that you get in permits is overshadowed by the cost of enforcing it, you know, so you're really
Yeah.
not getting much out of it. So, you know, I'd like to find a way, you know, to pay for some of these programs, you know, to have a benefit,
Yeah.
you know, for the community. And, you know, this gives another option. It's not a stickball thing or a flat field thing where the village just dumped a ton of money into one property, you know, it'd be nice to show the rest of the community that, hey, there are other things out there for you to do as well.
Yeah, that just reminded me, I forgot which foundation it was, but one of them was interested if this would get built, actually providing some bikes that could be kind of checked out and used on the, kind of like just a bike share, but they could be used on the pump track and then returned. We do have a lot of housing in this area, especially with like Prairie Brook going across the street, the Rosewood Apartments over here, obviously surrounding neighborhood, and then, yeah, the middle school too, and those connections. So, yeah, I think those would get used, and again, just another way to introduce people to, you know, different sports and different ways to use your bike.
Yeah, it's diversifying there.
Right.
So hopefully you got some feedback from us.
Yeah,
I think it's generally, I would view it as positive to continue to learn more information about it and be interested in it.
okay, sounds good. I will see what I can
Do you
come
think
back
there's
with.
any need for an action, or is it just informational?
I think just informational, unless, I mean, you guys are willing to say, yep, sounds good, we're willing to, you know, contribute up to whatever, $50,000, and we want this to happen next year. I mean, I don't know if you feel like you have enough information to really say that, so, I think that's, you know, again, what they would like to kind of hear is, are you willing to put money, you know, aside, and when? But yeah, I feel like probably just don't have enough information to really make that call yet, so I
think
think
there's
I
any
heard what
reason-
I need to, some questions that you guys have too, and then, I'll take this back and see if there's something else they can kind of present. I think they'll definitely be able to shed a lot more information about how this works, how it's used in other communities too, at a future meeting, so we'll try to get them here in August.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that information. Item C is upcoming meeting dates, Wednesday the 9th, so it is moved on to a Wednesday once again for the summer, Sounds of Summer event. And then it's moving on to September, back to a Tuesday on September 12th. Any objection to any of those dates? Anybody envision any conflict? It doesn't view any others. Are there any items for future meetings or any assignments in particular? None for me to assign?
No, I guess I just wanted to say, I don't know if I ever do this at the right times, but I appreciate the art, the sculptures and everything that have gone up around the community. It's pretty cool to see them all. And the reflector things at
Another one,
Oh,
Cusick,
that
yeah.
road.
I saw when they went up.
Yes.
Road, yeah.
Thank you.
Cusick.
Pass that on to Jeff. I know that
Yeah,
Jeff was-
no, I'm glad those were able to get up pretty quickly, and I think
Oh,
that's been
and then the
working
art
well.
on the electrical boxes too. I've noticed those too, or whatever those things
Yeah,
are.
the wraps
Yeah,
on the,
Very
yeah,
cool.
those are utility traffic control boxes, I think, for the stoplights. But yeah, nice to have that color at those intersections.
I'd have to comment also that I've seen a lot more biking activity down to Anderson Park, with the dog park down there, and the bike activity's been really, really heavy down there, so. And I know Anderson Park has been busy with a wide variety. The library's participated in several storybooks, which is awesome to read the stories and see the activity overall, so. Been good gathering with library. What was the most recent one that you had done?
BioBlitz
The Wildwoods, okay.
last weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
That reminded me, not sure where it was on the CIP, but the bike ped plan, we are planning to do that in 2024. We have grant funding from the DOT for that, and it's just a small amount that the village had to match. I think it's like 23,000, I think, and anyway, so once the park plan also is wrapped up, we hope we can kind of launch into that. I'll probably be working again with either an engineering or landscape architecture firm to actually look at gaps in our bike ped system, sidewalks, paths, on-street networks, you know, make recommendations for signage or actual trail construction. So that will be good to have that plan, and then grants beget grants. So hopefully once it's in a plan, then we can say, hey, you know, we need to have this section built so we can have, you know, a safe crossing for the middle schoolers or whatever it may be. And that'll help both with our CAP, and then also if we want to pursue other grant opportunities, having it in a plan that's been studied and vetted and it all kind of works together will be key in moving that forward. So yeah, lots of planning for this year and next year. I'm busy. And hopefully more doing in the future.
I do want to kind of underline what Elise just said. That planning effort will set us up really nicely for those future grants, which becomes even more important in the next 10 years with all of this extra money for infrastructure that's coming out. It really kind of is limited to that 10-year window, and we're getting in at the early side of that with this planning effort, which hopefully will give us plenty of flex time once we get some of these projects identified to get applications in and possibly reapply if we're not successful the first time, and hopefully get some of those projects funded. So there's definitely a benefit to doing this now and approaching it in this kind of methodical way.
Elise, are we able to use some of the tourism money for this or not? For like the bike?
The bike ped plan, we're not, I think we're actually planning on using the villages portion of our tourism funds to pay our portion of the bike ped study.
Okay.
Yeah, so it won't be from the tourism commission, it'll be the villages.
Okay.
So yeah, no borrowing needed for that, so that's exciting.
Okay.
But yeah, if there's any kind of recommendations that come out of that, oh, you should have a, bike hub, maintenance facility or visitor center or whatever, restroom facility to serve people, we get a lot of bike traffic, just people like road biking, and they'll come and have lunch downtown or something. So are there other facilities that we need to have that would help encourage that, both for village residents and also bring more people in to just do, spend the day in Oregon and keep them here as long as possible. So yeah, we'll kind of see where that comes out of too, but yeah. Lots going on.
Excellent. Any other comments? Lynn, thanks for joining us. We don't have any action items to take to the village board, so you're free of that one.
The burden.
In the future, we may have that. Other than that, let's call for an adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second? All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Very efficient. Thank you all.
Thank you.